Hello and welcome into Hoosier Gameday, brought to you by the Hoosier Network, where we bring you all the news, analysis, and breakdown you need about this Hoosier football team. My name is Noel Fary. Alongside me is Liv Clements. And Liv, the Hoosiers were just 1 yard away from completing an epic comeback last weekend.
They were, and I think it's important to acknowledge how close IU was to win. I mean, you saw in that first half they really did struggle. But coming into that third quarter, they got that momentum going. Yes, it was a little too late. But with 357 total yards, it's important to acknowledge how offensively they really progressed going into this game.
Definitely.
And you saw with the ISU and OSU game, offense struggled. And you had that QB tryout going as well, so I put that in factor with Taven finally starting. But that third quarter was pivotal, but again, in the fourth quarter, they didn't produce. So I think we're still looking for IU to really find out where they can offensively get in a flow. Defensively, I was kind of surprised how they might have struggled a little bit more than usual. But I think it's important to see how offense and defense really did get a flow going into this game. But Jalen Lucas, of course, was a big part of that. So going into this Akron game, I think it'll be important to finally see that flow of offensively and defensively going together.
Definitely. I agree with you. I think we saw a preview of what the offense could do against Indiana State when, they put up 41 points. I mean, that was something. But that's against a team that was penciled in as a win in the first place. Now, against Louisville, I think after, about halftime, people were ready to completely write this season off and say, scrap the QBs, let's figure out something new, blow it up. But I think we saw a preview of what Taven could be in this offense. Now the rushing attack struggled. Jalen Lucas, less than 4 yards per carry, a little bit to be desired, but that's honestly expected at this point. We need to see what this Hoosier passing game can do. And Taven, he pulled it together later on in the game, and they made it close. They made it competitive. I think it was a game against Louisville that people enjoyed watching.
I mean, there was pros and cons, right? I think you see the pros going that they finally started to pass the ball, which is what everyone's been talking about, to see Taven step up and do that. And I think what's important is you really saw Taven get into the flow of, I'm going to take this team on my back. And yes, that first half, everyone was scared. I think the Hoosier fans might have been a little worried getting to Indianapolis and seeing that. But I think from that point on, they really stepped it up. But then, like we always talk about, you can't rely on only certain weapons, right? And they did with Jalen Lucas again. You see him with passing and rushing yards, which is important that you can do both sides. But I think that when you struggle with how many weapons you have, of course it's going to be a struggle to win because the other team's going to see that and find those weak points. And I think that's what Louisville ended up doing.
Yeah, honestly, a big thing that surprised me, and you said it, Liv, the defense for IU was not necessarily as solid as it usually is. And you saw that in the rush attack from Louisville, and honestly, both. It was a situation where you get run all over, you get thrown all over, but then once the damage is done, they stop the bleeding. And it was a little bit too little, too late. I mean, barely at the 1 yard line. So Aaron Casey had a great game, 2 sacks on the day, but just overall, it is going to be hard to win football games when you're 5 for 13 on third downs like they were, and that shows you that the passing struggled a bit overall, especially in that first half.
I mean, like you point out with 5 and 13, those are moments when you look at the returners and, for example, Taven to really step up and take control over the game. I think those are pivotal moments where under pressure, that's where we expect everyone to step up and do their part. But like you said, when we write off ISU and then you go into a Louisville game and they say the same thing, it's going to be a win, it's going to be solid, and then it's not. You kind of need to realize that you still have Kingshire working out. Yes, you picked a quarterback, but that wasn't the only issue that IU struggles with. No. They struggle with offensively around the board. And then you feel so confident defensively, and then when the defense doesn't step up that first half, then you still have nothing. So I think you have to play both sides of the ball. Football is offense and defense. And I think if your offense struggles, your defense is going to struggle. If defense struggles, offense is going to struggle. And IU's been really holding their back defensively, but you see now that offense just is as pivotal as the defense is going to be as strong.
No, definitely. So now, with 3 games under their belt, this Hoosier team is starting to show a little bit of their identity, and we're going to bring on our first special guest to see if that identity was expected before the start of this season. Welcome back in. We've got the Hoosier Network's very own Zion Brown with us today. Zion, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Noel. This is a fun opportunity.
Oh, definitely. So I'm curious, Zion, you follow this team in and out. You've taken a look at them all season so far. Before the start of this season, what were some of your preseason expectations for this team?
I didn't have much expectation for this team coming into the year. I thought it'd win probably 3, maybe 4 games coming into the season. And so now they might be on track to win more. I'm not quite sure yet, but I didn't expect much. I knew the offense would be a struggle, but the defense has kind of impressed me a bit, I will say, so far.
Yeah, I think they've been playing well. So far, with 4 games underway this season, some interesting ones for sure. What do you think this Hoosier team has done overall? Exceeded, not performed up to the standards, or just met the standards?
I would say that this Indiana team, to this point in the season, has slightly exceeded expectations.
Okay.
One of the main reasons I say that is if you look at the spread of each game IU has played, they have covered the spread.
Okay.
So they are slightly exceeding expectations. Not that that means everything, but clearly this team is a little better than the quote-unquote experts in Vegas think they should be.
No, I agree, Zion. And I think to start off the season against Ohio State, it was hard to really gauge that game. But you take a look at it, the defense played great. And you can see at certain points throughout the season when this defense wants to lock up, they can. They did it against Louisville, stopping them from scoring any points in that second half.
Right, it was a big switch, a big turnaround, starting with that onside kick kind of against Louisville. I think that even riled the defense up, especially after the offense went down and scored a touchdown to start the half. And the defense was disappointed. They had 2 big coverage busts that led to a few touchdowns in the first half. They were disappointed after that game. They don't even feel like they should have given up the 21 points they did against the Cardinals. But you look at what they've done so far. Only 21 points for Louisville. No points scored on offense for Indiana State. And only giving up 23 to a very talented Ohio State offense. This defense has met the expectations thus far, and that's why I think this team should probably have a little more hope than that 3 or 4 win mark that most people, myself included, had them at coming into the year.
No, definitely. Now, that's the defense. With the offense, there were definitely, I mean, you said it yourself, Zion, there were basically no expectations coming in. When you have a quarterback audition for the first 2 games of the season, not that much to be desired. But I think so far, there have been flashes, like I said earlier, but I'm excited to see in these next, 3 games for Taven to really solidify himself. Dexter Williams potentially coming back from an injury. Will this be Taven's team to keep? That's a big question.
If he plays like he did against Louisville, I think it will be Taven Jackson's team at the quarterback spot. Dexter Williams, while he showed a really electric part of his running game through the offense, we know he didn't throw that much or throw that well last year, only threw, I believe, 7 times in the Michigan State win. Maybe only 1 or 2 passes before he went down against Purdue. So he's not somebody who we've seen really air it out the way we saw Taven Jackson air it out at Lucas Oil Stadium last week. So if Taven continues to play at that level, he was poised. I think he had a little bit of nerves in the first half last week, was overthrowing some of his wide open receivers. But once he settled into that game, you could tell the pocket presence was there. He didn't allow himself to be sacked. He's really growing up before our eyes, and I think just he'll get more confidence with more starts now that he knows that he is secure in that QB1 position.
No, definitely. Well, thank you, Zion, so much for joining us today. Up next, Liv and her special guest will give you a closer look at this weekend's matchup against Akron.
Welcome back in, everyone. The Hoosiers have a very winnable game this Saturday, and here to take a closer look with me is Taniya Jones. Taniya, thank you for joining me.
Of course, of course.
So, looking into the game coming up, IU against Akron, both coming in 1 and 2, both have struggles with quarterback, also defensively, running back, just kinks here and there. What do you think both teams need to do to get this win on Saturday?
Well, starting off with the home team, something that we need to do is we need to practice what we've been practicing ever since the word came up is Leo. And so basically incorporating that in almost everything that we do when we're making plays, when we're down there getting things together, like that will help. We need team effort. There's not an I in team. So one person just can't carry it, So the whole team has to do that. And I feel as if, Coach Tom is like trying to insinuate that a lot, but it's almost as if you can't force anything. You have to teach. They say you can't lead the horse to the water. And so if we want to win this game, then we have to understand and make sure that we have to be the horses going to the water and getting this win.
And that's it. And I think what's important to say is, like how you said, it's not about just one person. Yeah. And this QB position was a big deal. I think we saw this QB position with Brendan Sorsby and Taven Jackson both battling in the first 2 games. And finally picking Taven, a lot of people expected Taven to take this game on his back. And ultimately came out with that loss. But looking at Akron as well, they're doing this QB battle. They still haven't picked a quarterback, which is important for IU to see and find that gap with that weakness going into this team. So how do you think IU should look at that QB position still getting worked on for them as almost like they're looking in the mirror? I mean, you look at yourself, you just picked a quarterback. They haven't either. Do they see that as a weakness, and do they take advantage of that?
I feel as if, they see that out of weakness just due to, oh, we didn't have something, so we know that they don't have it. So that it's almost like, okay, let's play on that weakness. But if you want to think smarter and, not do anything harder, you would just go deeper into that. So, yeah, they don't have a QB, but where else on the field are we going to hit them? Are we going to defensively attack them? Like, we start off slow and then, we ease our way in? Like, what does that look like for us? And so kind of finding, that niche, finding where, we can find that power within on the field. Because I feel like, everyone has a power, especially the quarterback. We always look at the quarterback as carrying the team and doing through, but everybody is helping. Everybody is incorporating some type of skill. And so when you look at the other team, try to focus in on, what are their skills? Who else on the team does the quarterback look to who is maybe not here or who isn't performing the best because the quarterback's not here? Looking at those type of factors,
Yeah, I think it's important. We love a Hoosier win. I think
course,
we're going to deliver every time when it comes to a Hoosier win. But I think what's important to look into is this game's crucial for them. I mean, the last non-conference game. And Big Ten is not something you sleep on.
No.
That Big Ten conference is strong. You have Michigan already number 2 in the nation.
And they're going hard.
Thank you. And so I think it's important to acknowledge that them going into these games, Maryland, Rutgers, finding those winnable games in there. But do you feel like going into this Akron game, if they ultimately do take that loss, should they just kiss a bowl game goodbye? Because you have to win 6. And if IU goes into the Big Ten conference 1-3, it's going to be very hard to win 5 games in that Big Ten conference.
So I kind of want to, hit on a point to where you said, trying to find those winnable teams.
Right.
And so one thing about it is when we're looking at collegiate sports and then we're looking at, professional, like NFL, we are seeing that trying to beat who you think is going to lose or, looking into it, that factor, you can't go into the game with these headspaces anymore. Just looking at the Lions and the Chiefs. We didn't expect that. I mean, we had boys putting a lot of money on this, and they lost their money. And so, because they're thinking that, they're going to lose because it's the Lions. But that's not what it is. Right. It's about whoever has the most stride, who's been in that gym, who's been working. And so, who's been on the field the most? That's what it comes out to. So, you can't just put it in that type of perspective. You have to put it in perspective that you got to go into every game hungry, ready to eat. And so, I feel like there's still time. They have time to build this momentum back up. They have time to get their heads back in the game. You have Taven Jackson and then you have Jalen Lucas. And from what I'm watching, that's Batman and Robin right there. And this is Gotham. And so they're trying to make sure that plays are being made, but everybody got to incorporate for the win, So I think there's still time to get a bowl win. I don't think that it's a complete upset for IU football.
And like you said, you never know what can happen. And this win could be a close game. It could be a blowout. We hope for the win, of course. We'll see what happens. But we're going to go ahead and look into the future matchups for this game, as well as me and Noel are going to give our predictions on what we think Akron will do.
Last week, I said some people viewed that Louisville game as a must-win to really set the tone for the season. But this week, I really think this is a must-win against a struggling opponent, Liv.
It really is, though. And I think when you go to see the Big Ten Conference, it's not a conference you sleep on. Michigan is not looking at IU like they are a threat. IU has to step up to the board and really show that they are a threat going into the Big Ten Conference. You can't afford losses, and you want to make a bowl game. Who doesn't?
Of course.
So I think this game is going to be pivotal. You want to go into Big Ten Conference on a win. You're ready to set, and you're ready to play.
So, Liv, what is your score prediction for this Akron game?
For this Akron game, I see Akron and IU having competition. I don't see it as big as a blowout, but I do think if IU really does perform, you really see IU using all their weapons, flowing as one team offensively and defensively. I'm going to say 46-10. Okay. And I do see offense really flowing, but I also see some of that scoring being from the defense. I say, why not? I say, with both quarterbacks from Akron switching out still, I think that's important that defense takes a hold of that, and hopefully they get a pick 6.
There you go. Yeah, I agree with you, Liv. I think that this Akron offense is really struggling. I think overall we're going to see just a bad offense against a good defense. And when that happens, I think Akron is not getting into the end zone. I think that they'll put up 3 points. I think that is the maximum they'll score. But I don't think this IU offense has shown me enough yet for me to think that they're going to score more than 35 points. I mean, against, ISU they did, but I think it will be a bit of a lower scoring affair. My prediction will be 24-3. I think the Hoosiers will get in the end zone 3 times, and I think Taven will have a solid game, a very solid game, enough for people to have a little bit more confidence in him.
So we live in IU win.
Yes.
So, okay,
Yeah. We're still going through that. I think.
Okay, IU win, it will still be good.
I think it'll be an IU win. Now, Liv, you've been talking a lot about how we can't sleep on the Big Ten overall. So headed into conference play, we predicted it at the start of the season how many wins we think that they could get in conference play. Has that changed for you at all? What are your thoughts now on Big Ten play?
I mean, you look at the Big Ten, it's only growing, right? You only have bigger teams coming into it. So I think it's important to acknowledge the big teams that are already into it, right?
Definitely.
And so I think when I look at IU going into the Big Ten Conference, of course there's some games I don't see them winning. Michigan and Penn State would be very hard for them to win, right? You go to Ann Arbor, coats on, we hope for the best.
Yeah.
But I think some big games that I see them winning, Maryland's going to be a good one. I think that's a great matchup. Illinois, Rutgers homecoming game is just going to be so fun. Memorial Stadium will be hype. They'll be ready. Fans will be there. So I see them around getting 5-6, which some people can say is a high number, but I do think that defense holds teams down. And I think some teams struggle offensively, just like IU does. So I think it's going to be important to look into that. Yes, their first couple games they're all undefeated right now, right? You see Rutgers undefeated, Michigan, all of them. But I do see them getting around 5-6, which is going to be a great number for them to make them bowl eligible.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that this Hoosier defense has shown that they're capable of shaking things up a bit. I think that, the Michigan State game is a possibility for a win. I think this year maybe they can even give Purdue a run for their money, get that Oaken bucket. But I don't know. I think you're a little bit more optimistic than I am, Liv, and maybe they'll prove me wrong. But, I think coming down the road, IU can squeeze out 2, maybe 3 Big Ten wins. And I think overall, with all the adversity they've faced this season, that's right around where I saw him at the start of the season. Maybe they'll prove me wrong.
I mean, bowl eligible would be great for Taven. Under his belt to say the first season starting, he got bowl eligible. But I think even if they come out with more wins than losses, with such a new team, it will be a good season overall. So I think we look forward to it no matter what.
Definitely. Well, thank you all so much for tuning into Hoosier Game Day, brought to you by the Hoosier Network. Be sure to tune in next week, same time, same place, for all the news, analysis, and breakdowns you need about the Hoosiers. For Zion Brown, Taniya Jones, and Liv Clements, I'm Noel Fary. We'll catch you next time.